Hello and welcome. I'm Tom Kelly.
And I'm Shelley Johnson.
And this is Taillights with Alex Debogorski. Alex is an author and well known for his part on the History Channel's Ice Road Truckers. He's been driving for 50 years. He's been married for 50 years. They have 11 children and 17 grandchildren. And here are his stories. You've been married for how long now, Alex?
Well, it's going to be 50 years soon.
That's marvelous.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. It wasn't that easy.
Well, tell us about that. But let's start off back at the beginning. How did you meet this wonderful woman?
Probably I was 16 years old and went to a Legion. There was a dance in Fairview, Alberta, at the Legion, and I went to the dance, and I was a pretty shy guy when I was younger, even though I still got into trouble whether I was shy or not. But anyway, I showed up and at the dance. I was a little, I was too embarrassed to ask anybody to dance, and I went at one of the intermissions. I went outside, and there was a bunch of the boys there from that. I lived about 40 miles away or something, but I knew a couple of guys there. They had a bottle of stuff, and of course I didn't drink or smoke or any of that stuff at that time. And they had a bottle of stuff called 32 overproof Caruba rum.
Ooh.
And I don't know if you've ever tasted something like that, but anyway, and they were giving me a hard time. There were quite a few guys, well, taste this. So I probably drank about just enough to fill the bottle cap. And I went back into the dance, and I wasn't shy anymore. And fixed the problem.
A little liquid courage.
Well, it doesn't take much if you don't drink, and that stuff is pretty potent.
Uh-huh.
In later life, I use it for stripping the rust and paint off some of my old cars. But anyway, and so I come in there, and I asked the girl to dance. I teased my wife about it, and I thought it was a blonde, and of course in those days just rock and rolled, and I got up and started dancing like a whirling dervish. That shot of 32 overproof in me, and then fortunately the band took a break and stopped again, and when I turned around, I wasn't sure which girl I was dancing with, and so I just sort of stood there till everybody took a girl and left the brunette, and I took her, and that's the one I married. Yes, and then time went on. I think we got married. I don't know what the heck. So I guess we must have went out together for a couple of years, and then we went to university, and then she got pregnant somehow, and then got married, and come back, and then of course looking for work, and like people say, oh Jesus, it used to be easy to find a job. Yeah, it was easy, all right. I had 16 or 17 T4 slips. I had 17 jobs, last guy hired, first guy fired, the dumbest guy there kind of deal, 16, 17. We got married I got married when I was 18. And then I was working in the tire shop, and a fellow come along and looking for a truck driver, and next thing we're at the coal mine, Grand Cache, and as time went on, well, we ended up all having 11 children. It's the one thing about if a person wants to keep a marriage together, it seems to having a lot of children kind of gets you, instead of concentrating on each other, you kind of have to concentrate on the kids, eh? And we have 17 grandkids now. At least, I guess, last count anyway.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I remember they were doing the Ice Road Truckers one time, and I always figure that everybody should remember their own name and their own birthday. It's not my business to remember everybody's birthday and everybody's name. If people don't remember their own name, well, they've got a problem. Anyhow, they're doing ice road truckers, and they come in, and there's some of the kids around, and then some of the grandkids, because some of the kids are young, or my kids are younger than the grandkids. But anyway, and this little girl came up and sat in my lap, one of the grandchildren, and the producer with the camera, he says, what's her name? I couldn't even, not a chance. End up with my daughter-in-law had to whisper her name to me to figure out which one it is. So that was, I don't know. Hopefully they didn't play that. I don't remember seeing it, but I still have that problem once in a while. Yeah, what's your name? I know where you live. What's your name?
Right. I recognize you, but what's your name?
Yeah, it's remembering your wife's name. I think that is often the critical one. That, you forget some of the others. But you don't want to forget that one. Yeah,
the trouble. My wife's name is Louise. The problem is her birthday and the wedding anniversary are 2 days apart.
Yeah.
At the end of, and I have to go and look in the bedroom at the something to do with the wedding there. It says the date so that I can remember which one it is.
Well, at least you remember the anniversary because it's right next to her birthday, so you never get in trouble.
Well, if I get one of them right, I'll be right on the other one.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Exactly. So so you married in 1972?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Right. And you cut out there for just a second. When did what month was it?
January 1972.
Oh, so when you say 50th anniversary, it's like this month yet. Yeah,
I guess it is, isn't it?
Very cool.
I think. Holy mackerel. Well, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah. So, So you've got a little time to still do something special for the anniversary here.
Well, I'm not even home. I've been a friend of mine that did a bunch of work for me, a lady that has got lung cancer. I came here for Christmas. I've been looking after her. As a matter of fact, we're taking her to the doctor today. Different driving around and looking after her, and then I'll go home here in the middle of the month to go on the winter road in time for the anniversary and the birthday.
Okay.
Okay.
So, so you got time to think up something then, as far as a great gift is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. I think I got about 2,200 kilometers to go to get home, so I got enough time to write a poem, I guess.
Yeah,
that works.
Yeah,
sure.
That's something that'll work.
Have you written her poetry before?
Probably a long time ago.
Well, you're such a great
I work harder at paying the bills than writing poetry now. Seems like the older he gets, more concerned about bills than poetry.
There's a song there. I hear it.
Yeah, considering they've written most of them, there are a couple still left.
That's great.
You mentioned that a lot of kids helped. What other things do you think you can attribute 50 years of marriage to?
I don't know. God?
Yeah.
I guess we share our Christian religion. I guess I don't know. I say God with a question mark. I shouldn't say with a question mark. I say my life is an example of God being among us, because we're I'd be dead. I'm like my brother. I'm working on my 7th cat or 8th cat by now, and as far as the children and the relationship with my wife is proof of God, because we've had every problem pretty well you could have in any marriage, and so far we've managed to get over it, and we're still there. So I mean, I had a business for most of that time, so worked on the business. We're always busy. I know I was on a, I was on a gravel job. I mean, I listen to other. We used to have in the old days. We had what we called the JJ radio. They called JJ because when you called the operator, you gave your number like JJ something or other, and you could hear when people were talking on that radio or phone. You'd hear half the conversation. You'd hear the conversation from the other end. You wouldn't hear the other driver. And guys that call their wives and they say, "Oh, they're bored. And they're going to go to their friend's place or going out to the bar." And whenever I called my wife, she'd say, "I'm tired. I'm going to bed because of all the kids." And needless to say, I don't know. A lot of people try to tell me I'm full of baloney. I tell people I've lived life a lot fuller than other people, because I live all the work through my children. All the children I've lived their lives, and then through all the work I had to do to support those children. People say, "Well, I can't afford to have kids." I said, if you support the kids, I made more money because I had the kids than if I didn't have the kids, because I had to. The human being, unless you force them, they'll tend to put their feet up and watch CNN. And if you force them, they'll watch Fox.
We'll be back with more of Taillights with Alex Debogorski. Stay tuned. Kathy DeCaro is nothing short of amazing. She not only drives the world's biggest truck as a heavy equipment operator in northern Alberta, Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big, an autobiography about overcoming a lifetime of trauma and abuse that led to dreams of success. Kathy inspires people the world over to change their lives and improve their self-worth. Her book will change your life. She's passionate about personal growth and believes anyone can change their circumstances and overcome their obstacles if they believe in themselves. Her life will amaze you and seriously inspire you. Be sure to order a copy of her book, Dream Big, on Amazon.com.
Join Shelley Johnson and Kathy Tuccaro every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time for Women Road Warriors on your driver navigation station, tncradio.live.
Welcome back to Taillights with Alex Debogorski.
Or something like that.
Necessity is the mother of invention, right? Something to that effect?
Well, it's just sort of like practicing for the Olympics. You practice, and you go to Olympics. Well, when you have a big family and if you work at it, and then there is lots of work, then you're always doing. You always have to be doing stuff to survive. And if you're one to go out looking for opportunities, when an opportunity shows itself, well, you're working 24 hours a day already. So what the heck? You just make it 25.
Oh, sure.
And take advantage of the opportunity. Whereas if a person's working, 7-hour day or 8-hour day and, relaxing, a lot of times, I found there was times when equipment was broke down or there was no work and you sit around and you feel depressed and you spend half your day sleeping, try to look for something to entertain yourself, and if a job would come along, then you aren't ready for it. Well, I'm busy. You just don't feel like doing things. But when you're doing things all the time and something comes along, all you do is switch gear up or gear down and go after it. Eh?
So in that way, condition you for that.
Yeah, the family did that. That the family, I was forcing myself. I can tell you, I wanted to have a big family from when I was 13 years old. As a matter of fact, I could tell you, I could take you to a field. I was behind the baler. Dad was baling on a June day, and I hated chaff, like for farming, all that stuff, itchy stuff going down my neck. But I was behind the baler, and I was stacking bales, 10 bales. You slide them off, stack another 10 bales from the baler. I used to drive Dad batty a little bit. I used to have the Reader's Digest in my back pocket because it bored me so much. So I'd stacking bales, and I read the Reader's Digest at the same time. I'll pull out of my back pocket, and I'd read 2 or 3 paragraphs, and I'd stick the pack in my pocket and grab the next bale. And in the meantime, and then I don't know, this one day, hot, nice June day, I thought, I want to have a big family. I'd like to have 12 children. And I don't even know where it came from, because our family, we had 5 children, and Mom and Dad Dad didn't seem to be too happy about us. To me, it was my mother's fault for having more kids, and so that didn't come from there. But anyway, decided to have 12 children. As it turned out, we had 11, and one has died so far, so we still got 10 left. Yeah.
Had you read the book Cheaper by the Dozen? Because that was an
I
inspiration.
have glanced at it. I'll bet you I have two copies of it. I have glanced at it a few times. I haven't. I was too busy. I do read occasionally, but I was too busy to read it, I guess.
But that was about a big family, for sure, and the discipline that it took, like you're talking.
Well, we weren't. It's kind of interesting. My wife and I weren't really didn't see eye to eye in discipline. When I was as a child, I was raised. And I was disciplined, physically, mentally, whatever. My wife, it was about talking, and I'm not too big on talking. Sometimes I would rather holler than talk.
Cheaper by the Dozen was about time management and so forth, and you were talking about that. Essentially, just keep going. The guy was
well, you name it. You talk about living life and having a big family. I dealt with the Justice Department. The police cars come up there. I had to deal with the police force. I had to deal with the Justice Department. They end up in court. I had to deal with the teachers. We had a problem with teachers because my kids would go like they're like I don't know. The teachers were concerned that my kids were too competitive. It got me excited. They're too heavy. No, we're trying to have participation in our school, and we got one kid that is overweight and he doesn't do much exercise. And we got other kids that really rather watch TV, and we like everybody to participate when we go out and we have sports. And he says, your kids come and they grab the ball, they're playing basketball, and all they can think is scoring, is putting it in the net or putting it in the goal or whatever. And if anybody gets in the way, they just run them over. And that was a big complaint, as far as the school system. But we had everything happen, but I come home at dinner time, and like I say, my wife wasn't so big on discipline. I come home at dinner time, and I go in the house, and I said, Louise, the kids are chasing each other around with hunting with big butcher knives. They're running around the yard. You got half a dozen kids that are chasing around with butcher knives. Aren't you going to do something about? Oh, that's okay. She says they do it all the time. I said, what?
Oh my!
No, they did. They're all. I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm not hungry. I'm going. And I got guys. I didn't eat. I went and got in the pickup and I left. I said, I can't believe it. They're like how those guys are survived. The boy that died, he ended up. That's I guess 4 years ago. He ended up. I have no idea where he got. He got ALS or Lou Gehrig's and then not on top of that, but he was he just lived in the wheelchair. Then his house burned down. So between the two, that was his demise. But they're quite the crew. We had one daughter. You talk about things happen to the kids. she's a nurse, a registered nurse now, and she got the dogs tried to eat her. Had 2 or 3 dogs attacked her and basically tore her to pieces. They could see her jugular vein, they could see her spinal cord, they could see the nerve in their cheek. I don't know. Like every year in Canada, there are a few kids and maybe the odd adult that get killed by dogs, and because especially a lot of indigenous communities where there's a lot of loose dogs. But where the dogs are loose, they tend to gang up, and depending what kind of dog they are or what kind of mood they are, they will attack people. And they attack their owners sometime too. But anyway, these things they're called Eskimo sleigh dogs. They're rare, and they tend to pick on animals or kids are smaller than they are.
Right.
So yeah, we flew out on the medevac to Edmonton, had her in a hospital. So that was one of the many commotions.
But
very scary.
How old was she when this happened?
Oh, she was. I don't think she was 3. She still has scars. I mean, she's 30. She still has scars from it. But I mean, there were some scars. I mean, I was with her in the hospital. Like, unbelievable for a child like that. There were some pretty big wounds that actually healed overnight. I couldn't believe it.
Wow!
But it didn't all happen. And then of course, we brought her home from the hospital, and all the rest of the kids. They felt sorry for about 10 minutes, and then they started playing and they just run her over. So she either had to get up and get in with the rest of the crowd or go hide somewhere in the corner. So she finally got up and forgot about her wounds and just joined the other kids. Maybe let a groan or two when it hurt once in a while. Yeah, they also got all things like that, accidents, and then of course I seem to keep up the kids. Every couple of years they'd I'd have to haul me to the hospital, patch things up, get hit in the head or something at work, and then.
We'll be back with more of Taillights with Alex Debogorski. Stay tuned.
The late, great Mark Twain once said, "Quitting smoking is easy. I've done it hundreds of times." Well, there are many behaviors that people try to quit. They try to change, and they end up reverting back to that same old self-destructive behavior. That's not just about smoking and drinking. That's even about leaving an abusive partner in a domestic violence situation. Sometimes people have to leave 7 and 8 times before they leave for good. Earlier in my career, when someone wanted to quit smoking, I would make sure that they were totally committed in every possible way because I didn't want them to fail. Because in my mind, if they failed, they would associate quitting with failing and then they wouldn't try anymore. But I was wrong. According to the research, we are to encourage people, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. Because one of these times, we're going to quit for good.
Be sure to listen to Building Strong Minds with Dr. Chris, Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, right here on tncradio.live. Welcome back to Taillights with Alex Debogorski.
Pets, like we had every kind of animal in our house. The kids killed a few animals along the way by accident. I go in there and the 2 girls, "What do you do to the rabbit?" "Well, we're both riding it." "You're riding the rabbit?"
Oh my! Oh jeez.
Like two of the girls together. So that was the end of the rabbit, and the gerbil ran into the door, and so I came out, and it just went on, and the pet. I've got a sister. I've got a sister who lives in Corpus Christi. She's American citizen. I think she voted the last election. Well, I got a couple of brothers up Colorado, the other one down in Corpus Christi. So I had a 69 Lincoln Mark III, and I had gone on a trip with the oldest son, who was about 5 years. He come along. I was going on this trip, and my wife said, well, you should take the kids with you. I said, okay, give me a few, I'll take them. And so she gave me the oldest son. Well, that was a big mistake. 2 weeks later, I was sure happy to get him back. But anyway, and I ended up with a couple of white mice. And so we had one mouse left over a period of time. And the mouse got out of the cage and was running around in the car. And when you're driving down the road, the mouse would come up and sit on your knee. But when you stop the car, it would vanish. It didn't stick around. So I just put food in the car. I figured, well, I'll just feed the mouse. I didn't want the mouse to die in the car. I didn't figure how we're going to catch it. And then I got back up north. I went to Vancouver, a long ways from Yellowknife. But anyway, got back north, and I don't know, a month or two later, my sister borrowed the car to go and see her boyfriend 100 kilometers down the road. They've changed the road, but there's something like, I don't know, in 100 kilometers, there was 99 turns or something like that. It was really a gravel road and very curvy and rough and stuff. And she went to see her boyfriend, and coming back, I don't know. Oh, the mouse went and sat on her knee. So she was trying to catch the mouse and lost control of the car and went into the ditch, and she put the car end over end and wrote the car off. And the car was upside down, and she got out of the car, and she still had the mouse in her hand, and the mouse was still alive. She managed to hold the mouse as the car rolled over, and somebody gave her a ride. She came home with the mouse. I think the mouse met his demise not too long afterwards. But anyway, my car was totaled. That turned into fracas. I wanted her car and this and that for wrecking my car. She was borrowing it, and but at the same time, she worked for the police. She worked for the RCMP. She was a secretary or did something for the police there in Yellowknife. And so now she says, "Well, what am I?" She says, "I got to report the accident. What do I tell him happened?" I said, "Just tell the policeman the mouse ran up your leg. Just tell the policeman a mouse ran up your leg, and don't say anything else. And don't look serious. Like don't." She would look serious because she's worried anyway. I said, that's all you have to tell him. Just tell him the truth. So she came home, and I said, well, how did it go? How did your reporting action go? She said, it went very well. I said, what happened? She said, well, I told the police officer the mouse ran up my leg. And he says, he looked down the paper. He says, let's just put down lost control of vehicle.
That's
They wouldn't even put it in the report that the mouse ran up her leg. Just anyway, that was an expensive mouse, that white mouse. Like tell a story, it had to be a white mouse. So some people don't believe me, but that's the way it goes. Yeah, so that was another disaster. Yeah,
amongst you had a lot of adventures with your family and everything, and
life
entertaining, huh?
Well, entertaining. It's not. You're always. It was stressful. I mean, you're worried as a parent. You're worried. You have to make. We used to pray. I prayed all the time because you didn't know what's going to happen. You got 11 kids. You open the door and they run out in the road and they go play in the middle of the road. Like you can only spend so much time chasing kids, getting them off the road, and after you get 6 of them off the road, and 5 others go back on. So what the heck you do? And then the dogs.
Yeah.
I was one time. I was wondering what the heck was going on. From the road, I could see down the road. There's a bunch of traffic at noontime. There was about it doesn't tend to have a traffic jam in Yellowknife. There's 20 in the industrial park, and there's 20 vehicles in line sitting there, a couple end dumps and pickups and cars. I wonder what the heck's going on down there. So I go down there, and here's this lady. Oh, the dog! And we had a Jack Russell. This dog is about 10 blocks from our door out in the middle of the road, and she's having a fit about the dog. Oh, the dog's going to get run over. I said, don't worry about the dog. It plays in traffic all the time. And he's okay, And she was having a fit about the dog. So finally, traffic all starts moving. There goes the pickups, there goes the cars, there's the end dump, and then the dog's running behind the end dump and half a dozen cars behind him, and they all go down the road. It's like we ended up with a pig. You talk about pets meeting their demise. So we ended up with this pig. Somehow I was down south, and my cousin gave me Vietnamese potbelly pig, but it was crossed with a European wild boar.
Oh my.
So, this pig grew to about 380 pounds, maybe bigger.
So it would not be a house pet.
Oh no! That ended pretty quick. Remember, the kids were teaching the pig how to climb the front, like to get into our house. We've got a flight of stairs coming up the house. Oh, I don't know, 15 stairs coming up the house. So the kids were teaching the pig to climb the stairs. And Louise went out there one day, opened the door, heard a bunch of noise, opened the door. The pig had made it up the stairs, was at the front door, wanted to come in the house. So she two-handed him between the eyes with the broom. Bum, 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 all the way on his bum. So all the way downstairs, plump up on the bottom, 15 stairs lower. That was the last time the pig tried to come in the house. But the pig wandered around the industrial park, and I got more. He scared policemen. He got all sorts of trouble. Somebody finally one day poisoned him. I have some ideas what that. And of course the vet, like that pig cost me about $6,000. The problems he got into. I'd come home. Louise has told me there's all these people in front of the yard, and they hear about the pig, and I come down there, and they got French television, CBC, the bylaw officers, and all these people there about this pig. And I come home, and now what's the pig done? They said, "Well, can't you pen this pig up?" I said, "It's a free-ranging pig," and they figure it's like a joke. I said, "I'm serious. That pig, if I put it in the pen, the pen will last about half an hour, and that pig will demolish the pen." And I took a bunch of pallets. I took a 3/8 chain and put a chain right around all the pallets and put the boomer on it, put it all together so it wouldn't move. Then the pig was in there and realized it couldn't get out. It stood up on its hind legs and put its front hooves up on the pallet, and it was squealing so loud my ears were just like I ended up with tinnitus for about 2 weeks from my ears ringing, and then proceeded to take the pen apart, and then she was happy. She'd walk around and she'd wag her tail, believe it or not. But and then we had problems like that. That's one problem. Another problem was so we used to have a newspaper delivery, the Edmonton Journal, and this guy would bring the newspaper, but I'd rarely ever see the newspaper.
We'll be back with more of Taillights with Alex Debogorski. Stay tuned.
This blog is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. Team driving with your spouse, is it for you? Trucking's an exciting career with many opportunities. Although there are many benefits to being a truck driver, such as freedom on the open road and seeing new places, there's still negative sides like loneliness and boredom. Truck driving is also difficult for your marriage. Being away from your spouse for days or weeks at a time makes it challenging to have a happy and healthy marriage. Thankfully, truck drivers have the option to team drive with their spouse. Forming a husband and wife trucking team can be a great opportunity to spend time together and travel the United States while making good money. Now, like any other job, driving with your spouse has pros and cons. Stay with me to find out if team driving with your spouse is right for you. Now, the pros of team driving with your spouse. Faster delivery. Due to the FMCSA's hours of service regulations, truck drivers can only drive up to 11 hours a day. Any driving after 11 hours will result in a penalty and a bad safety score. Truckers on average will drive up to 55-60 miles an hour. After their 11-hour shift, that adds up to a little over 600 miles a day. When you drive with your spouse, you can drive more miles. While you're finishing your 11-hour shift, your spouse can be resting and getting ready for their shift. This allows drivers to complete more miles a day, which in return leads to a faster delivery. You won't feel lonely. Driving alone can lead to developing mental health issues later on in your trucking career. Studies show that depression and anxiety are some of the most common mental health issues in drivers today. Team driving with your spouse eliminates feeling lonely on the road. Having your spouse with you on the road gives you someone to talk to and enjoy your daily activities with. Make more money. A single truck driver makes less money per mile than one whose team drives. Why is that? Well, with two drivers, you're completing more miles each day, and therefore you reach your destination much quicker. Cons of team driving with your spouse. Difficulty getting along. They say that distance makes the heart grow fonder, and that's true. It can be difficult to get along with your spouse when you're in a small space for weeks at a time. You may find yourself wanting alone time to pursue your hobbies and interests. When you decide to team drive, you give up the possibility of any alone time in your truck. Lack of sleep. To make team driving work, your spouse will have to rest while you complete your shift of driving. Sleeping in a truck cab, especially if your spouse is noisy, can be difficult. As a truck driver, it's essential to have a good night's rest before hitting the road. Getting the right amount of sleep is not only good for your overall health, but it also makes you more alert and cautious when driving. Harder to find trucking insurance. If you decide that team driving's for you and your spouse, you might have trouble finding a commercial truck insurance company that'll write your insurance. When you team drive, your truck never stops. Therefore, the truck is at risk for higher exposure to accidents. Your truck's also more liable to having maintenance issues, which can result in getting violations. Conclusion? Driving with your spouse has many pros and cons. Our advice to you is to take a look at the pros and cons and determine if this is the right career path for you and your spouse. Trucking with your spouse can lead to many great memories. This blog was brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hi, this is Bill Waldrop. Want to learn more about trains? Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central for The Train Station. It's right here on tncradio.live.
Welcome back to Taillights with Alex Debogorski.
Okay, so anyway, after the pig died, we realized all the Edmonton journals were in the pig pen, and she'd made a bed out of them. Every time the newspaper guy threw the paper out, she'd grab a paper and she'd just carry it into her house, and I guess she read the paper, and then she made it into a bed. So, and then after the pig died, then they got this Jack Russell, and again, we never got the Edmonton Journal again. And what happened was the newspaper delivery guy and the Jack Russell didn't get along, and he would tease the Jack Russell, we realized, and then he'd throw the newspaper out, and he'd drive off down the driveway. The Jack Russell grabbed the newspaper, and he chased the newspaper man down the driveway, and the newspaper guy would drive about 2 blocks, and Jack Russell would run about 2 blocks with the newspaper in mouth, and then he'd spit it out, leave it on the run, then Jack Russell would come back and leave the newspaper out the road, So we didn't get the newspaper for about 3 years. I finally gave up on trying to get it. I told them just to cancel it. Yeah, there's many there's the stories we had. One time, Easter time, people did. I also was kind of silly, but they buy little rabbits, like live rabbits. I didn't realize it. They go buy live chickens, like little chicks, and they give them to their kids. So they got these chicks. I don't know. Chicks I don't consider them very hardy how they survive. But anyway, this chicken survived, and this person came. He brought this scrawny chicken that was about 6 months old. He's, well, my kids got it for Easter, and I don't feel like killing it. Would you like the chicken? I said, sure, give us a chicken. So, so we have this chicken running around the house, needless to say, occasionally pooping, scratching it. It was a mobile home, and it was an old mobile home, and here you got the chicken that's scratching at the carpet, pecking at the park. I was just looking at this chicken, what the heck are you finding in the carpet? And the kids would be playing, and all of a sudden some friends would be over, it'd be a bunch of 6 kids playing in the living room, and all of a sudden they say, catch the chicken, and they all jump on this chicken. I can't believe it. That chicken would be squawking, and be feathers flying, and shoot out from under somebody's arm and go running down the hallway. Leave the chicken alone. Anyway, yeah. That's some. You figure some of the things that happened, you might think it'd be boring, but no. Like a lot of people think it's boring on the farm, but it actually isn't. When you got that many children.
So what kind of house do you have now? I'm assuming you're not in a mobile home anymore. Well,
yeah. Well, we had the mobile home. I got it. It was a deal. Everything's a deal. I was looking for a deal, and I got that mobile home in there, and my wife went to visit her dad, who's ill with heart problems, and I was babysitting, and I was doing a good job. I cleaned up the house, and I washed all the dishes, and I sat on the couch. I was going to dry the dishes, and I thought, I got the house looks better than when my wife looks after it. I got the dishes done, everything looking tidy, and all of a sudden the 5-year-old walked out of the bedroom. Smoke, smoke, he says. I thought, smoke? What do you mean? And look up, and here's a foot of black smoke coming out of the bedroom.
Oh,
so I run to the bedroom, and here he lit the bed on fire.
Oh.
So the bed's burning. So of course I try to run for some water. I couldn't find the fire extinguisher, and I swear to this very day, this is like, I don't know, 25 years ago or something. I could never did fight. After the fire, I was digging through all the burnt stuff, looking at the word, and I never did find the fire extinguisher. The kids probably took it someplace. Anyway, so that was the last time I babysat. The kids burnt the house down, and then there's a friend of mine, Mike Marjanovic. He was a Serbian, actually, well, Canadian now, but I had some insurance. And I had about $60,000 left, maybe less. And he said, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I think I'll buy a new mobile home." So I had quite a few mobile homes. When I was 22 years old, I bought and sold one time. I think I was up to 16 mobile homes. And I had some rented out, and I bought and sold them. I should have stayed in that instead of going into construction, but I was in construction. But anyway, and Mike says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to buy this mobile home." He says, "Well, I think we had maybe 5 or 6 kids at the time." He says, "Well, you got all these kids, you got to have a house." I said, I can't afford a house for $60,000 in Yellowknife. He said, "I'll tell you what." He was a builder. He did a bunch of things. He says, "I'll tell you what. You give me the $60,000, I'll build you a house." I said, "Okay." So I gave him the $60,000, and be darned, I think it took him 5 weeks, and we had a 1,250 square foot house, roughly 2 stories. I said, I went back to him. I said, "It'd be nice to make it." He said, "I'll build you a 1,250 square foot house with a 4-foot crawl space, because where we live, we have to have sewer and water. We truck the sewer and water. We aren't on the water system because we're in an industrial park." So they built a 4-foot heated crawl. So you got a 1-story house with half a basement underneath, and then you put your water tanks and sewer tanks, and then the trucks come and pick it up, sewer up, and deliver water every week, and you have to pay the city for it. And I said, "Well, it'd be nice to put it on like 2 stories, and instead of making a story and a half. Well, that's an extra $15,000, this and that." Well, anyway, he built me a 2-story house. When everything and we moved into it in 5 weeks, and we still live in that house to this day, and it was a very big favor to me. And he wasn't that well off in those days. He did lots of stuff. He was building up in the Arctic, and he had quite a reputation, actually. And then the thing is, I knew him from, like, I used to work in the bar. I worked in the bar back in the 70s. I worked about 4 jobs, and one of the jobs was working in this bar. And we had 2 gold mines in Yellowknife. The town was maybe, 9,000-10,000 people. So all these, and we had a real good bar. It was the best rock and roll bar in town. And so on the weekend, everybody comes. So it was, it seemed like there's an awful lot of scrapping going on while I was there for those couple of years. I was there for 7 manageresses, I think. And all these guys always want to hit you in the head. They all want to hit me in the head. Of course, it hasn't done me any good now that I've got older, but that time it didn't seem to faze me too much. And so they were all scrapping. And there was times where you end up with 6, 7, 8 guys that show up to give me a licking for various reasons. They thought I need an attitude adjustment or something. And Mike, there's a few times that Mike helped me out that I wouldn't have survived if he hadn't. And anyway, he built me this house, and that was that. I give him the $60,000, and since then he's become a multimillionaire. He's the guy who builds in Western Canada. He's got all the Nova hotels. He builds all these hotels. They're called the Nova Hotel. And I always like to think, for helping me out, that's one of the reasons he's been so well. Things turned out very well for me. Yeah. But that was the last time I babysat.
That's quite the story. Oh my goodness.
Oh heck! I could stories. I don't know. I only remember maybe 1% of them. The kids burnt. We had two chickens and the rooster. That was nice road truckers. And my wife never even told me. My brother told me. He says, the chicken coop burned down. I said, the chicken coop with the 3 chickens. He says, yeah.
Roasted chicken. Oh dear.
Well,
Good.
I guess there's a rooster and 2 chickens. I guess the rooster was smoking in bed. I don't know, because that's what happened. And anyway, that was one thing. The kids had a fort. They got that thing on fire. That got put out without them burning up in the fort, because the fort, you had to go up. It was 2 stories high. You had to go upstairs to go in their door they built, and you had to go downstairs. Then they had I had an '86 Ford Bronco in the backyard. Well, I got about 100 cars in my yard because I collect stuff. Anyway, and they lit this Bronco on fire, so we got 30 feet of flame up in the air and everything else, and the kids running all over the place. And the police come back with the fire department came, and I said, don't be nice, give the kids shit. So they stopped burning stuff around here, because we've had a bunch of fires, and of course they charge you for every time a fire truck comes. And oh no, there they got the kids, and they got it all sitting in the fire truck blowing the horn and everything else. And I figured, we had one time the police came, and they got one of my sons in the back seat, and they said, where did he learn how to drive a skidoo? And I said, he didn't learn it here, because I don't let him, I didn't let the kids play, like a lot of people let them drive quads and motorcycles and skidoos, and they think it's all wonderful, but I just seen too many broken necks and arms and everything else, and I kept you turn 16, you get a driver's license, you go ahead and get a quad, or you get a skidoo, whatever. I wouldn't let them ride the stuff, because this one, another way to get them, then they get all 10 or 11 of them out there. There'd be like a demolition derby on skidoos or some darn thing. So I try to keep them away, but they didn't need me to give them. They got their friends brought them, and they did this and they did that. But anyway, the police end up, the bylaw officers end up catching him. He says, he was, he says, where do you learn to ride a skidoo? I said, I have absolutely no idea. You look in my yard, there's no skidoos here. Once in a while I'll have a skidoo if I got a job that needs a skidoo in the wintertime, but I don't keep them for entertainment. I didn't spend very much time in entertainment when I was younger. Maybe went to the bar maybe too often, but that's about it. And they said, well, where did he catch him? He says, we chased him for about 3/4 of an hour, and he had 5 kids on a snow machine, and we couldn't keep up to him. So him and 4 other kids are all the same machine, and he was driving it until he lost control he was going up one-way streets the wrong way and all sorts of baloney, and he ended up lost control in an icy corner and ended up hitting the house, and he was stuck in the insulation in the house, and so they got him there. My. Anyway, and I guess they're going down there. There's kids that were crying, and their helmets blew off because he's going so fast. Oh, I couldn't believe it. I said, what kind of machine were they riding? He said, well, Scandic. I said, Scandic. He said, I don't know if they're going 80 miles an hour. I said, it can't go that fast. He said, the new ones do. I said, well, I never rode a snow machine for a long time, so I didn't realize it'd go that fast. But anyway, so then they said, what are you going to do to punish him? Well, they didn't want to go to court because it make everybody look foolish. You're chasing 5 kids on one machine, at those kind of speeds, and they went through radar. I think the speed limit of 30, and they went through radar at 70 or something like that, or faster than that. And what's that going to sound like in court? These 2 guys at 2 snow machines chasing these kids, and so they weren't going to do nothing. I said, well, at least get them out there. This is winter time. Go and get them to, maybe you'll find some pensioner, some older couple that needs their snow shoveled, because they give you tickets if you don't shovel the snow in town in front of your house. Well, why don't you get them to shovel snow for some of the old people, for free? Yeah. Well, okay, they decided to do that. Well, then he goes out to shovel snow for old people, and then the person would come out and give him $20. So he'd have a $20 in his pocket, and then the police would stick him in the backseat of the police car, and he'd ride around the police while he pulled people over and got to play policeman for half a day. So then he was rewarded for it instead of being punished anyway. Yeah, that's the way. Trying to get other people to help you to punish your kids, it didn't work very well.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Alex. And, I find it amazing the way that you take care of others all the time. And we'll be praying for your friend there with her cancer.
Oh, yeah. We really appreciate any prayers for Diane. She has lung cancer, and it's wrapped around her bronchial tubes, and they can't operate. So we're going to hospital to look at radiation. We're supposed to go for a planning thing, and she has very, very, very poor prognosis. Chances of being able to do anything, but we're going to try anyway. So I thank you very much for prayers, and Happy New Year to everybody. God direct you and protect you, and have a blessed New Year. Thank you, Shelley. Yeah, yes. Good. All the best to you guys. See ya.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye now.
We're going to continue our conversation with Alex next week with more great stories. I can't wait to hear them. I wanted to mention, don't go away. There's more great stuff coming up. Coming up next is a show I co-host with Kathy Tuccaro called Women Road Warriors. Kathy's a heavy hauler in the oil fields of Canada. She's an international motivational speaker and the author of Dream Big. She helps women and girls get inspired and empowered. Women Road Warriors is a talk show where we feature fantastic guests, experts, and celebrities, along with women trailblazers in trucking and other industries. Our show covers all kinds of topics. It's informative, uplifting, and entertaining. It's coming up right after 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, so stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.